Hello, I'm Jina Kim, your host for the GEOVISTA. Former U.S. President Donald Trump is returning to the White House. 4 years after leaving office as the 45th president, he has been re-elected as the 47th president, marking an unprecedented comeback. Trump's re-election will signal major changes, not only in the U.S. domestic politics, but also in international dynamics, including Korea-U.S. relations. Today on the GeoVista, we will examine the implications of the 2024 U.S. presidential election results. Join me, Jina Kim, as we take a closer look at President-elect Donald Trump.
It's a political victory that our country has never seen before, nothing like this. I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president.
A political influencer who thrives on controversy and attention, Donald Trump has returned as the U.S. president-elect. Not even criminal indictments, guilty verdicts, or multiple assassination attempts could stop his comeback. Now approaching 80, he is a man who never gave up on reclaiming the White House. At this point, you may be curious about his early years. President-elect Trump was born on June 14, 1946, in New York, a descendant of German immigrants who arrived in the U.S. in 1885. His father, Fred Trump, was a successful real estate developer who made a fortune in New York's apartment real estate market after World War II. As a result, Trump grew up in a very affluent environment, but faced constant pressure to compete and succeed. Trump was known for having a strong sense of pride and an aversion to losing from a young age. This led to aggressive behavior, including a notorious incident at age 13 when he punched his music teacher, saying, "You don't know anything about music." His parents were so concerned that they sent him to a boarding school, the New York Military Academy. After graduating from military school, he studied business at Fordham University before earning a bachelor's degree in economics from the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. Even before graduation, he was working at his father's real estate company, preparing himself as the future successor. In 1971, after taking over the company from his father, he renamed it the Trump Organization. From there, his real estate ventures went beyond business, establishing Trump as the brand in itself. Despite some bankruptcies along the way, he achieved major success with hotels, golf courses, and casinos bearing his name.
More Comrade Kamala Harris, you're fired! You're fired!
"You're fired," perhaps is the catchphrase that made President-elect Trump who he is today. Beyond his success in real estate, Trump first gained widespread fame as the host of the reality show, The Apprentice. Even during this year's campaign, he used a very catchy phrase from the show against Vice President Kamala Harris. Through The Apprentice, Trump crafted a strong image as a decisive leader and successful entrepreneur, qualities that became his political assets. Perhaps that's why, despite having no prior political experience, he managed to defeat Hillary Clinton in the 2016 election to become the 45th President of the United States. Now, shall we take a closer look at the political side of the president-elect? "Make America Great Again." This was the powerful slogan he used in the 2016 election that galvanized public support. He championed an America First agenda, challenging the established political elites and traditional foreign policies. This approach was evident in his hardline stances on immigration, protectionist trade policies, and assertive foreign relations. Notably, his stringent anti-immigration measures gained significant attention. He pursued the construction of a wall along the Mexican border to curb illegal immigration, and attempted controversial policies that separated children from their parents, sparking international outrage. His protectionist trade policies led to a trade war with China, involving tariffs and technological competition, which strained both economies and disrupted global supply chains. Departing from multilateral diplomacy, he withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal, intensified sanctions against Iran, and demanded increased defense spending from NATO allies. In his 2024 campaign, President-elect Trump reiterated plans to tighten immigration restrictions, re-emphasized America First shift more responsibilities to allies, reduce foreign commitments, and raise tariffs, which is why the global community is anxious about his return. As we had to pinpoint the most controversial moment of President-elect Trump's previous term, it would likely be his refusal to accept the 2020 election results. The January 6, 2021 Capitol attack by his supporters sent shockwave through American society, and Trump was labeled as a figure who deepened the political divide in the U.S. He even became the first U.S. president to have a mugshot as a criminal defendant, charged with inciting the riot. In response, the Democratic Party, leveraging his incident, branding him as a threat to democracy to unite their base and appeal to moderate voters. Ironically, though, his support only grew after the indictments, with his base rallying behind him even stronger. Public dissatisfaction with President Joe Biden's economic and foreign policies also boosted Trump's popularity. One of the most striking images from this election season occurred in July when, during an outdoor rally in Pennsylvania, a bullet grazed his ear. The sight of him clenching his fist, blood streaming down, became one of the most symbolic moments of the campaign. This incident not only made international headlines, but also strengthened the resolve of his supporters. Did these repeated crises actually work to Trump's advantage? The 2024 U.S. presidential race, initially projected to be razor-thin, ultimately resulted in a decisive win for the former president. When he takes office in January, he will hold the record as the oldest president in the U.S. history.
We are going to start by all putting America first. We have to put our country first for at least a period of time. We have to fix it. Because together we can truly make America great again for all Americans.
The Trump era returns with America First at the forefront. His hardline policies and unpredictable leadership are once again being put to the test. Now we have taken an in-depth look at President-elect Trump, the 47th President of the United States. To discuss what his return might mean for the Korean Peninsula, we are joined by an expert on the Korea-U.S. alliance and East Asia security. He's also the head of one of Korea's leading foreign policy think tanks. Let's welcome President Kim Hyun-Wook, the president of the Sejong Institute. President Kim, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So after the election, we had lots of discussions about the U.S. policy change during the second term of Trump administration. So let's talk about North Korea, because during the election campaign, President-elect Trump mentioned his relations with Kim Jong-un, chairman of North Korea. But he did not mention specifically what kind of meetings that he would like to have with Chairman Kim. So there are lots of speculations about the nature of future meetings between the two sides. First of all, do you think it is possible that he can try, personal meeting with Chairman Kim? And second, what kind of purpose that he might have in his mind?
So many questions. President-elect Trump is, a person that is not trying to get engaged with, military dispute.
Yes.
When asked by the journalist what President-elect Trump would do in the case of Taiwan's trade contingencies, he said 200% tariff on China. That's what he is trying to deal with in military dispute areas. So I think he's trying to calm down many regional disputes now. He said that he would finish the war in Ukraine in 24 hours. He's pushing, I think he will push the Prime Minister Netanyahu to finish the war in Gaza, but I don't think, Prime Minister Netanyahu would willing to and listen to what Trump wants. He wants to win the war first. In case of North Korea, I think President-elect Trump also wants to calm down the provocations by Kim Jong-un. So I think, dialogue would be highly possible. What kind of result would come out of that dialogue? That's the question. First question is that would President-elect Trump officially accept North Korea to be a nuclear weapon state? That's the question I have. Maybe not. That means that the U.S. is officially changing its denuclearization policy towards North Korea. So if not, he would substantially accept North Korea's nuclear weapons, even though he's not abandoning official policy of denuclearization towards North Korea, which is also a big risk for South Korea. Maybe he will have a deal with Kim Jong-un on the freezer stage rather than going into the next rollback stage and give some sanction relief to Kim Jong-un in response to the freezing all the development and test of all the nuclear weapons and ICBMs. So that's the second risk. And third risk is that even though he sticks to the freezer stage, would President-elect Trump go through all the detailed processes as previous U.S. government did based upon CVID policies towards North Korea? For example, declarations, inspections, and verifications of all the sites. I don't think that will be happening, because Kim Jong-un would not want. So if Trump wants to deal with Kim Jong-un, maybe all those thorough stages and processes will be omitted. That's also a big concern for South Korean government, I think.
So if it is still a big if, for the purpose of risk reduction or crisis management on the Korean Peninsula, it's maybe in U.S. interest to have a new dialogue for arms control or arms reduction for the time being, as long as complete dismantlement of nuclear weapons in the North is the ultimate purpose. But if that should happen, then there should be a positive response from North Korea, because there should be some kind of incentives to bring North Korea back to the negotiation table. So what do you think appropriate incentives that the U.S. government can provide?
Maybe what Kim Jong-un wants is, economic issues. He's striving because of economic situations in North Korea. He's sending all these young soldiers to war in Ukraine because of the money problem. He already sent more than 10,000 soldiers, and I think there should be some money, provided by Russia to North Korea, Kim Jong-un. So economic situation is most important thing. I heard from someone defected from North Korea that there is 1.2 million North Korean soldiers, and 30% of those soldiers are, experiencing nutrition atrocity. And another 30%, they are not exercising, but doing mostly working on constructions and agriculture labors. Another 5%, they're dealing with who are, escaping from the military camps or something. So the real soldiers, I think, are somewhere around 30%. The military soldiers situations in North Korea is not very good because of economic situational problem. So I think economic issue is the most important issue for Kim Jong-un. And you mentioned it right that the arms control negotiation is possible between President-elect Trump and Kim Jong-un. But from South Korean perspective, we have been pursuing for a long time a denuclearization policies of the Korean Peninsula. And if the U.S. accept North Korea as a de facto nuclear state or sort of unofficial nuclear state, then there should be subsequent measures by South Korea to be nuclear, by whatever measures it is, by our own way or by the U.S. deployment of nuclear weapons in South Korea. Whatever way, there should be a cancellation and changes of our denuclearization policy on the Korean Peninsula. We have stuck to the denuclearization policies altogether with North Korea in 1991. And after that, North Korea began to develop nuclear weapons. And now they're in the stage of announcing that North Korea is nuclear power states and we are having North Korea is having nuclear weapons. I think it's time for South Korea to change its policies altogether, I think.
So actually, what I was saying is, well, we can think of arms control as a part of step-by-step toward denuclearization. So as a procedural measure, we can think about freezing and somehow reducing the size of nuclear weapons and ICBM for the time being, so that we can build our trust and establish some kind of confidence-building measures, and then move on to the next phase, which is reduction and dismantlement of the nuclear program in the end.
Yeah, that's possible. That's what President Trump did in his first term after Singapore agreement. He came out of the agreement and suddenly mentioned that the cancellation of U.S.-South Korea joint military exercises at the time. So I think it's very plausible approach by President-elect Trump, but from the perspective of a strong supporter of U.S.-South Korea alliances, that's something that risks the alliance in this reason. And as far as the U.S. is now pushing for pressuring China and trying to utilize all the allies in this region to deal with China, I think it's also bad news for the United States that will damage the alliance cohesiveness in this region. So.
Yeah, actually, the summit in Hanwha broke down because of North Korea's demands for easing sanctions, which was not acceptable for the U.S. side. Still, easing sanctions is not viable in the near term because the U.S. is imposing sanctions layer by layer by layer because of not just the nuclear issues, but because of human rights issues, cyber threat issue, and money laundering issues, and all things related to North Korea's socialist system. So in that regard, the working condition between executive body and the legislative body in the future is very important because there should be some kind of support from the Congress. How do you see that kind of changing relations between the Congress and the White House, especially on North Korea issue?
Yeah, I think Trumpism has been a main discourse even amongst the Republicans compared to the first term Trump government, I think. And now in the Senate and Congress, the majority is Republican. I think there is a higher possibility for the Congress and Senate to cooperate with President-elect Trump. But I think they still have their own strong opinions. For example, U.S. forces withdrawing back to the United States. That issue is something that would not agree with President-elect from the Congress's positions. You mentioned that how to deal with the North Korea. That's kind of tricky issues because even during the Biden government, some key officials of the United States also mentioned about the possibility of interim deal at the time. So yes, arms control deal is possible, but we have to see how it goes because there are many points of interest that the United States has to think about. As I've mentioned. It is now trying to integrate many agencies of the United States and allies abroad so that they can easily swift back and forth for many regions to deal with China. So I'm not sure how much it will be possible for the President-elect Trump to make some decisions, for example, like stopping joint military exercises or curtailing U.S. forces in South Korea, things like that.
Yes, you just mentioned China. I think the continuity in U.S. foreign policy is balancing against China. In that regard, any ally in the Indo-Pacific region will be very, very significant when they join this campaign against China, and South Korea is obviously one of them. How do you see the future relations in general between the U.S. and South Korea, especially regarding the cooperation on alliance issues and coordination on North Korea issues in the coming months and years?
Well, I think definitely the President-elect Trump will try to stick to the restrainers rather than globally making the United States to be primacy strategist. But at the same time, I think President-elect Trump will try to focus on China more than other areas. He's trying to calm down many other regional threat areas, but instead trying to focus on China. Of course, I don't think would willing to put U.S. forces in the Taiwan contingency areas, but still China is the foremost threat for President-elect Trump, I think. So I think he definitely would want the U.S.-South Korea alliance to be geared more towards China deterrence postures. And also at the same time, what is an important issue for the alliance is SMA issues. He might want to get more money out of South Korea. Another important issue is MRO issue. Maintenance, repair, and operation issues. He mentioned it during the phone call with President Yoon because a lot of U.S. combat ships are navigating this region and periodically go back to the mainland for the maintenance periods. That's very costly and inefficient. And if South Korea can provide some maintenance to all those U.S. combat ships, already in September, U.S. combat ship went to Gaza for the maintenance and repair already. The Hanwha Ocean Company and the U.S. Navy already, they had struck a deal for the maintenance and operations and repair already. So this will be South Korea's very important contribution to the U.S. Indo-Pacific strategies, important contribution to U.S.-South Korea alliance. And as far as China is concerned, we are not officially very adamant in expressing our strategic objectives, alongside with the United States, because China is also a very important neighbor to South Korea. But, MRO instead, I think, a very important, agenda that we can, clearly and officially contribute to the Indo-Pacific strategy of the United States. So that kinds of area is something we need to find out more, so that not hampering China-South Korea relations, but at the same time, we can freely, contribute to the alliance in this region. That's an important area.
Thank you for your comprehensive analysis. It seems that we have lots of challenges ahead of us, obviously, but I hope we can develop a strategy to, make a very promising alliance relations with the U.S. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Before we wrap up today's The GEOVISTA, let's take a look at images highlighting events around the world following the U.S. presidential election. Here, U.S. Vice President and presidential candidate Kamala Harris delivers her concession speech at Howard University in Washington, D.C. She acknowledged that while the outcome was not what she had hoped for, it was one she must accept, reaffirming her commitment to a peaceful transfer of power. The Democratic Party has emphasized the importance of defending democracy throughout this campaign, highlighting that accepting the election results is fundamental to democratic principles. With this election reflecting the extreme polarization in society, the challenge for the U.S. will be finding ways to foster social unity. Following Donald Trump's election win, cryptocurrency Bitcoin saw a sharp rise. The Republican Party platform released during the election campaign included promises to halt crackdowns on non-U.S. cryptocurrencies, supports the right to mine digital assets, and promote the free trade of digital currencies. Additionally, the Trump campaign accepted donations in digital currency, leading to speculation that his administration may pursue crypto-friendly policies, which has been already reflected in Bitcoin's surge. In the U.S. Senate election held alongside the presidential election, New Jersey Congressman Andy Kim made history as the first Korean American elected to the Senate. Here, he shares his thoughts on the milestone. This marks a significant step forward for Asian American representation and reflects the growing diversity of the U.S. population. With a background in international relations, he is expected to play a key role in shaping U.S. foreign policy. That is all the news we have prepared for today. Join us again next week on the GeoVista as we continue to bring you in-depth perspectives on world events. This has been Jina Kim. Thank you.